It's Cricbuzz Chatter, Adam Collins and Mike Hussey after a thrilling final day here at the Sydney Cricket Ground. England, the great escape. It certainly felt that way at different points today. They held on for a draw or a test match that went to the very final ball. And Huss, anytime a test match goes to the final ball, it's thrilling. But the fact that James Anderson and Stuart Broad were there at the very end too, it made it all the more special after Australia nearly went through them, needing 6 wickets in the final session. The second new ball, Pat Cummins goes bang, bang to get rid of Butler and Wood in quick succession. Finishing in the dark with the spinners, just kind of had it all today, didn't it?
It was a fantastic test match. It really was. And it had everything. You know, it had a lot of fight from England, which we've been waiting to see throughout the series. I thought Zach Crawley played beautifully with his 77. But Australia just kept chipping away, getting wickets along the way. And then, you know, they grab a couple and you think, okay, they're going to run through England. But no, they showed fight again. Ben Stokes, wow, what a fighter he is. And, you know, you could see the anguish on his face when Nathan Lyon finally got him out caught at first slip. You thought, okay, well, now's the time for Australia to put the foot on the throat. But again, England kept fighting and hanging in there. It was gripping stuff, you know, and it's amazing that it can, you know, after 5 days, it can come down to the very last over, the very last ball. And, the old pro Jimmy Anderson hanging on. I thought Jack Leach fought really hard as well with Johnny Bairstow, you know, and you thought, okay, England are safe, but there's always a twist in the tail. And the SCG has seen so many famous test matches over the years, and this will certainly go down in history as one of the greatest as well. England, fantastic effort to be able to bat through the day on a pitch that actually played okay. It held together okay. There was a few tricks, along the way. There was a bit of uneven bounce, but not as much as maybe what we were expecting. Not as much spin as perhaps we were expecting, and it was and England were able to hang on. It was an awesome test match, great to witness, and certainly England, I think they'll come away with a lot of spirit and a lot of heart out of that one.
Yeah, I think they will as well. I spoke to Joe Root after play, and he described himself as being very relieved. I mean, just getting something from this series and doing it in such spectacular fashion. And by that, I mean having to play with such guts, having to get through that final session when all looked lost for a moment there. And we saw India draw a test here last year where, and the beauty of what India achieved was that by the last hour, all the life was out of it. This was a different kind of draw, owing to the fact that there was the late wobble and all the rest of it. But Johnny Bairstow, 41, he faced more than 100 deliveries in both innings of the test match for the first time. When he got out, caught at silly point, I'm not sure if you spotted this, Huss, but it was Stephen Smith who said to Labuschagne, you go to silly point for the seamers as well. So Pat Cummins was well supported by his vice-captain. And at the very death, Stephen Smith, you've got to love the absurdity of Test cricket, the vagary of Test cricket, that Stephen Smith, arguably the best Test batsman in the world, or certainly has been at different points over the last 5 years, bowling to two of the greatest seamers of all time who are batting to try and save the Test. It was a beautiful thing.
It certainly was. It was amazing. You know, you were glued to the game. You couldn't take your eyes off it. It actually reminded me of a few years ago when Michael Clarke came on late in a test match and took two or three late wickets. I can't remember exactly against India.
3 in 5 balls.
Test match. Yeah, in a few balls. And it had that feel about it. When he got Jack Leach out, caught it slip, we thought, oh, here we go again. Is he going to be able to spin his magic and spin Australia to a famous victory? But no, England were able to hang on. All the experience of Jimmy Anderson. It was phenomenal. As I said, it had absolutely everything, this test match. It had great batting by Usman Khawaja and Johnny Bairstow. It had some fantastic bowling with Boland and of course, Stuart Broad from England. It had some great spirit and great heart and hanging in there. But, you know, England showed great character today. You cannot take anything away from them. The fighting qualities and character they showed was sensational.
And thinking about what Australia did so well today as well, Scott Boland, 3 wickets, his record at test level, he's averaging 8.68, I think it is at this moment. It'll only get worse, surely, but from what a base, doing it with what I understand to be quite a serious injury to his ribs earlier in the week as well, getting through with painkillers. It speaks volumes about the character and the skill of this man. 4 for 36 the first time around, 3 for 30 the second. I suppose it's a reminder, and you're proof positive of this as well, Huss, with your playing career, that just because you have a 3 in front of your age doesn't mean you can't be a most valuable test player at the start of your journey. You don't need to have debuted when you were 25 or 26 to make it count when you're 32 or 33.
Well, that's right. I think the advantage that he's got is that he's played a lot of first-class cricket. He has a great understanding of his game and what he needs to do to have success. You know, quite often when young players come into the test match arena, they're still trying to find out what their best game looks like and what it feels like. So Scott Boland, he's been around a long time. He's had a lot of success, thoroughly deserved his opportunity to play for Australia. And yeah, wow, what a performance it's been for him in the first 2 Test matches. It's, the showing in Melbourne, he showed it wasn't just a flash in the pan. He can back it up with another fantastic performance. He's a captain's dream. He's so disciplined with his line and length. I think he's the most accurate bowler that's ever played for Australia. Really, the statistics will back that up. I know it's only over 2 Test matches, but over 50% of balls on a good line and length. It's just what your captain needs. He keeps running in hard for you, as you mentioned. Even though he wasn't 100% fit, keep putting in 100% effort. And he's been a great asset to this Australian team, and almost got Australia home. He picked up some key wickets again today, but it was just a little bit too far for Australia today, unfortunately.
Yeah, including Joe Root for 24. He's managed to get Joe Root out 3 times now and not adding a run against him across the second innings at Melbourne and both innings here. It's quite remarkable. Ben Stokes made a half-century in both innings whilst injured as well. That big partnership with Bairstow in the first innings, and it was Stokes and Bairstow again, either side of T, who looked apart. Look, it's unclear whether Ben Stokes will play next week, but we've been saying throughout the series on Cricbuzz Chatter that we were waiting for him to really step up with the blade, and that's what he did here. And he was mortified when he got out. He just kind of followed a line delivery and placed it to first slip. But to that point, he was controlled with his aggression, kept the board ticking over, which was really important, I think, in that middle session, especially that it wasn't siege mentality. They were able to keep playing positive cricket, and Stokes is such a positive player. So great to see him back in form and making a significant contribution this week and contributing to this draw.
Oh, without doubt, and it was always going to be difficult for Ben Stokes coming into this series. He'd missed a lot of cricket. He was coming back from an injury and some mental health issues. So it was going to be a challenge for him to jump straight back into an Ashes environment, the cauldron of Ashes cricket where there's so much pressure against a top quality Australian attack, and to come out blazing was always going to be tough. So, he looked short of a gallop probably early in the series, but you can just see him starting to build some momentum. A shame that he's got this injury. I don't know if it'll keep him out of the next test. He did look in a lot of pain every time he played an attacking shot, particularly a cross-bat shot, the pull shot or hook shot. He would really wince in pain. So obviously he's going to have to rest up over the next 4 or 5 days to try and get himself right, because I think even despite him not being able to bowl, I still think he can play a big role with the bat, because as you mentioned, he's coming into a nice sort of vein of form now, and he'll be important. Plus, there's also the spiritual side of Ben Stokes. When he's in that team and playing well, he seems to lift everyone else. He gives everyone else hope in that team. And I think while he was out there, everyone believed that, in England that they were going to do the job. So you were right. He was mortified when he got out, but, it was an incredible effort from him, particularly being under so much duress.
Yeah, interesting you mentioned the spiritual side of Ben Stokes. Bharat Sundaresan, beautiful writer for Cricbuzz, wrote a stunning piece about Johnny Bairstow that went up this morning about almost the meditative state he's got himself into as he's come back to the Test team and been able to play with such wonderful control this week. He looks a player reimagined for this next stage of his Test journey, made 41 today. We've showered him with a lot of love, though. Let's talk about Zach Crawley for a moment, though. Zach Crawley barely played for 3 months, back into the Test team at Melbourne, a double failure there. He talked a big game in the media before this Test, saying he could bang out 100. Well, I tell you what, he made 77 from 100 balls today, and I thought he was rusted on for a ton. He played so nicely through mid-wicket. It took a fabulous Yorker from Cameron Green to dislodge him, getting underneath his bat. Green, by the way, 9 wickets in the series. What an asset he is to Australia. But as far as Crawley is concerned, lovely to see a young man with so much potential, having made a big score at Test level before, go through a rough trot, and a sign to the future today that he can mix it with the very best.
Oh, he's definitely a player of the future for England. He showed a lot today. Just being able to come out and play in a positive frame of mind against an excellent Australian attack. But he was more selective in the second innings as he was the first innings. The first innings, he was trying to drive on the up on a pitch that is seaming around. It wasn't the shot that needed to be played at that time. But in the second innings, he still wanted to be positive and play his shots, but he picked the right balls to play the shots. There was a couple of beautiful drives down the ground. But I think what impressed me the most was his back foot play. The way he picked up the short ball and dispatched it over the leg side. He was imperious with some of those pull shots, and that sends a message to the bowler that he's right on top of you. So I think there's great signs there for England, and certainly Crawley and he'll just get better and better. You know, we've got to remember he's still a young player. And as I was talking about with Scott Boland, he's got a long way in this journey to go. So he will improve on the mental side of the game. And that's exciting for England. Yes, there's going to be more ups and downs. I have no doubt about that whatsoever. But from what he's been through, I'm sure he would have learned a lot already. And then as he continues to go through his journey, he's got the talent. He's got the ability. We saw that on Full Show today. But then at the mental side of the game will grow. And hopefully we'll start to see more consistent performances like that. I'm sure that will come in the future, particularly if England persist with him.
When Johnny Bairstow got out, there were 11 overs remaining, and it was Jack Leach and Stuart Broad initially. Let's talk about Jack Leach. He was beleaguered, to say the least, coming into this Test match after what happened at Brisbane. Left out at Adelaide, didn't have a great Test at Melbourne. I don't think he was helped at Melbourne by Root, but that's a different conversation. 4 wickets yesterday and made 26 today, but occupied the crease for a long stretch of time. He ended up being the final wicket to fall, bringing Anderson and Broad together for that thrilling final 2 overs. But Jack Leach, he's a scrapper. He's made of tough stuff. He's been through quite a lot in his professional journey already. And how good is it to see a guy who's been through so much be a player in splitting the difference today, when easily it could have gone the other way with that second new ball when it was hooping around. He would have been excused for almost giving up the ghost, but that's not the way that Jack Leach is built.
No, he's a fighter, as you say, and he's got gumption. You know, he's not going to throw it away. He's going to hang in there and scrap all the way to the death. We've seen it before. You think back to when Ben Stokes played that amazing innings at Headingley against Australia a few years ago. You know, who was at the other end for a long period of time? Well, of course, it was Jack Leach. He's had a good Test match. You know, I thought he was a little bit defensive with his bowling in the first innings, but in the second innings, he looked like he's enjoying himself. He looked to attack a bit more. He looked to try and bowl the ball in the rough, and he bowled beautifully. Picked up 4 wickets on a hat trick before Pat Cummins declared. But he also showed a bit of fight and a bit of spirit with the bat as well. You know, hanging in there. You know, he's a great character, and you can just tell he's much loved in that England team. And you know, he's very proud to be playing for his country, and he's just going to give it his all every single time he goes out there. So I think his teammates will be really proud of him tonight, and he should be very proud of himself with the effort and the performance that he put into throughout the whole Test match.
As we make our way towards the hotspot, I'll note as well that Jimmy Anderson has been out in the middle for more Test losses than any cricketer in the history of the game. Of course, 169 Tests, a big sample size, but batting out to the end today, you've got to love Jimmy Anderson. What a contributor he's been. And Stuart Broad doing it with his old mate. It was brilliant theatre and wonderful cricket. All right, let's go into the hotspot. Patrick Cummins, Australia's captain. Let's talk about him for a moment. After the Brisbane Test match, he was quite clear that he knew that the job would only get tougher than that. And a day like today, Huss, is tough. Remember that at one stage he had no wickets from 17 overs. Brings himself back on, second new ball, gets it hooping around, a big in-swinging Yorker to blow off Mark Wood's foot. 2 balls after, he's taken off Joss Buttler's front pad. Excellent use of the DRS by the captain. But that's what got Australia going in that final hour and a half or so. But then the focus becomes the squeeze and the field positions and men around the bat and bowling changes. And I'm interested in your perspective on how Pat Cummins went in a Test match where they didn't win, where they tried a lot of things and it didn't quite come off. Your assessment of his captaincy and his decision-making across the 5 days.
I thought he was very good. I'll give him a very good mark out of 10. I would have thought. I think the way he rang the changes today, you know, he changed the bowlers around different ends. I thought his field positioning was excellent as well. Almost got the job done. I think the only thing is if he had his time again, would he have maybe declared perhaps half an hour earlier, maybe 40 minutes earlier? Like they had plenty of runs on the board for that pitch. England were always going to struggle to score that many. I don't know. Maybe he can answer that. But as far as tactically speaking on the field, I thought he did a very, very good job. I'm sure there would have been a lot of help along the way from Steve Smith as well, the vice captain, and potentially some of the other senior players, you know, especially while he's bowling. You know, that's got to be a tough challenge when he's concentrating on his bowling, trying to take wickets. He didn't pick up a wicket in the second innings for quite a period of time. And I just wonder if he was juggling in his mind, you know, the captaincy side of things and his bowling side of things. But then he was able to compartmentalise that, come back on for that amazing spell. He saw the moment and seized the moment, picking up those 2 wickets and really gave Australia the belief that they were going to go on and win that Test match. So all in all, I think he did a wonderful job as captain for Australia. I know there'll be people out there looking to nitpick a little bit, but all in all, it was a fantastic test match, went right down to the wire. Everyone gave it everything, and I think he can be pretty proud of his performance as skipper.
Yeah, I think that's really well summed up. I spoke to Pat after play as well, and he sees the bigger picture, doesn't he? He understands he's been part of something pretty special here today. And look, you can always say after a result like that, maybe one thing could go another way. Maybe Boland bowls a couple of more overs before line at the very end. But hey, that's the game. That's Test cricket. Huss, on that note, let's press fast forward. Who plays for England next week? I mean, it feels as though Joss Butler is confirmed as going home. That's really sad for Joss that that index finger injury is sufficient to send him home. Hasn't had a great series. You got to feel for a guy who's done so much for England, not being able to turn it on down under, but so it goes. Johnny Bairstow might have a broken thumb. We'll find out when the X-ray comes back, and even gutsier innings that'll make what happened today and back on day 3. And Ben Stokes with the side strain. Sam Billings has been confirmed as joining the squad. He's on his way here at the moment. Ollie Pope, of course, kept wicket yesterday. Dan Lawrence is in the squad. Maybe Chris Wokes might be needed to bolster the batting. I mean, they've got a lot of decisions to make between now and the next test match starting at Belrive next week.
Well, the short answer is I don't know who's going to be playing for England next week. As you said, I think they've just got to really take stock and see who pulls up well and who doesn't pull up so well in the next few days. So obviously, Johnny Bairstow is going to be assessed pretty carefully with his thumb. Ben Stokes with his side. I think Jimmy Anderson looked quite sore as well throughout various stages of that second inning. So it'd be interesting to see how he pulls up and whether he's going to be able to play the last test match as well. I think he'll be keen, considering it's a pink ball day-night test match. He'll want that ball in his hand to swing around corners. But let's just wait and see. What an amazing story it'll be if Sam Billings can play his first test match for England. He's been ripped straight out of the Big Bash. He was meant to be going to the West Indies for the white ball tour, but he's got an opportunity to potentially play his first test match. I think it'd be slightly unfair to make Ollie Pope wicket keep. And I'd certainly look to be bringing him back into the team if there's an opportunity to do that. But just let him play as a batsman. Don't put that extra pressure on him being a wicket keeper. Perhaps Robinson might come back into the team as long as his shoulder's okay. Perhaps Chris Wokes might come back into the team as well to bolster the seam bowling attack. I'd love them to stick with Jack Leach. I'm not sure they will. We'll have to wait and see there. Being a day-night test match, pink ball, will they play that out-and-out spinner? I don't know whether they will go down that path. I certainly hope they will.
Yeah, they tend to not play a spinner when Stokes isn't there. So I think a lot will hinge on that. I reckon there could be as many as 6 changes when you factor in Hussey Adam Collins struggling again today and Rory Burns on the sidelines. Maybe they'll want to try that Burns-Crawley combination at the top. And I suspect they will be keen to get Robinson and Wokes back. So a lot of changes for England, but they've done the job today at the Sydney Cricket Ground, just as India did 12 months ago, the end of a really wonderful test match, a good contest between bat and ball across the 5 days, a privilege to cover it for Cricbuzz Chatter with Mike Hussey, and I can't wait to get down to Tassie next week. You'll be back with me, I assume, Huss, and we'll drive this all the way to the end for the 5th test match of the Ashes. Thanks for your company across the 5 days here at Sydney. Let's do it all again next week. Today, a draw between England and Australia.